The Lantern is brought to you by Innovation Economy Banking at JP Morgan. This is Matt on another episode of The Lantern. We have Andy Palmer here today, executive, investor, Boston ecosystem tech leader. How would you describe yourself, Andy?
I really like to think of myself as just a software engineer. So
Fair enough. It's the fall 2024. Like, where are we today? What's happening in your career as it relates to the startups you're advising, investing in, and even sort of leading from a chairperson perspective? What are some of the other things you're thinking about this fall?
Well, I'm at a really fantastic point in my career. I'm sort of moving into sort of a semi-retired state where,
nice.
I'm still the chairperson at Tamr, and we have a new company called DBOS, where I'm the chairperson. We just hired a great new CEO, Jeremy Edberg, to run that. He's based out in California. He was the first engineer at Reddit way back in the day. And then a few boards, most notably is Osmo, where I'm still on the board working with the team there, and Alex Wiltschko, who's an amazing founder who started Osmo up here and then moved it down to New York. Yeah, and other than that, I spend a lot of time with my granddaughter, so at least a couple of days a week.
And for anyone that doesn't know, Osmo is digitizing scent through machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is really cool and sort of frontier level technology. In your career, you've had the chance to do a number of things. What are some of those startup learnings that you would capture for the audience, other founders in the Boston community, startup operators, investors, people that are making their way in their career?
Yeah, I think it's especially for young folks. And I spent a lot of my time meeting and talking to young entrepreneurs. I think for the youngest entrepreneurs, one of the things that's critical to keep in mind is that whatever project they're working on, they have to be irrationally exuberant about that project and do whatever it takes to make that thing successful.
Sure.
And as projects, fail, which they oftentimes do, contextualizing that experience. And, as I look back now on a lot of the projects that I worked on, some of which were successful, most of which failed. And the failures are where you learn a lot. It sounds very cliche, but it's really true. As we're going through a round of companies running out of money and all kinds of crazy things happening right now, and a lot of companies failing, I think it's really critical to keep in mind that those failures are learning opportunities and just one step in their overall entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. And Andy actually wrote a book about this. It's called Live for a Living. I'm going to link that in the comments because it's a really cool way to take that many steps further and contextualize chapters of your career in terms of the broader spectrum of things. One of the conversations we had before we started was around capital efficiency and how that's new for startups today, or newer, I should say.
New for this generation, maybe.
Correct.
Yeah, we had this amazing dynamic that occurred back in the 2000s after the internet boom in the 1990s. When that crashed, 2005, 2006-ish, there was a trend towards what people at the time called lean startup, and it was really sort of a flight towards capital efficiency. And I think we're going through the same thing now, that after the 2010s and the massive adjustment we've all been through, maybe with the exception of the AI bubble, most companies are really focusing on much more capital efficient models and doing a pretty good job of it. Where I think we're standing on the shoulders of lean startup in the 2000s. And I think a whole generation of entrepreneurs now are getting over the hangover from the money drunk fest, the 2010s were, and they're starting to figure out how to build companies on a lot less capital. The stat that's most fascinating to me, the Founder Collective guys have this great, number where the peak trailing 12 months venture capital invested in the US during the 2010s was 7 times the amount of money that was invested at the peak in the 1990s. So like the 2010s bubble was 7 times plus bigger. And the reality is that the number of great entrepreneurs and great ideas doesn't change all that much. There was a lot of money invested into a lot of companies that just aren't going to make it.
And last but not least, what is your ask? Like, how can this community help you today moving forward?
I love talking to young people. In Boston, it's such a unique and special place to start companies for a whole bunch of reasons. At the top of that list is we're a smaller community than the Bay Area or even New York now. And the human beings that start companies here, the entrepreneurs and many of the ones that have been wildly successful are really good human beings. They care about, other human beings and they're less mercenary. And most of them, a lot of the folks that I hang out with are very committed to developing people professionally. So I think we have the most supportive and also I believe the most diverse entrepreneurial community in the world. Like it's an amazing place. So for young folks that are starting companies and doing things, like just ask for help and engage. I think you'll find here in Boston that people love to help you. And so all you have to do is reach out.
Thank you. Andy Palmer, Matt Crane from MGMT Boston. Thank you so much for joining us. This episode of The Lantern is brought to you by Innovation Economy Banking at JP Morgan. With JP Morgan's guidance, your startup can go from growing pains to growing without limits. With tech that powers your growth and bankers across the globe to help you disrupt every market, you can go from seed to IPO and beyond. JP Morgan, let's build your future together.